Hi guys! I feel like it's been a while since I've done a book video, but I'm happy to be back. I did want to do this video in June because, you know, that's the half point in the year, but over the summer I didn't really read. I guess not because I didn't want to, but more like I've been kind of stressed out and really tired. So I'm gonna just do this video now just because I thought it would be really cool to kind of review all the books that I've read so far, especially the books that I didn't end up reviewing the past couple months, like when I was moving. I think this is everything I've read this year. I'm gonna go off of my Goodreads just in case. Okay, I have two piles next to me, even though you can't see. I've only read 27 books, which is still technically a lot, but I feel like I would have been more ahead at this point, if that makes sense. The first book I read was Assistant to the Villain by Hannah Nicole. I don't know how to say your last name, but I thought this book was really good. It was very fast paced. I honestly flew through it really fast. This book is about this woman who needs to find a job because her father has like this illness or whatever. She needs to help, I guess, take care of her little sister and whatnot. She ends up crossing paths with this villain, kind of saves her life if I recall, but she got a job. She was working for him, no one knew about it. They hit it off very well, obviously. He's morally gray. He's the villain. He's not apologetic about it, and I think that was like one of my favorite things about him, because he wasn't apologetic of who he was, even though he was trying to change for her, but not necessarily changing who he is, just softening like the way he is with her. Does that make sense? And the banter was really good. It was really funny. This frog right here, he is the cutest little thing ever. I love him. It was really good. I gave it 4.5 stars. Rated it 4 stars on Goodreads, but hey, this was definitely a book that I would recommend, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. This was the first book I chose for 2024. The next book I read was A Good Girl's Guide to Murder by Holly Jackson. So I can say that for a beginner to reading, trying to get into different genres, I should say, this was a really good book. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I think it was a great series to start with, especially for like one of my first thriller books, I guess you can say, thriller horror books. It was fast paced. I guess it had me wanting more. It had me thinking, like, you know those books that just have you questioning your existence? I guess the first book I read as a horror or thriller or mystery book, this was definitely a really good book to start with, and I still recommend this book. I cannot wait to finally watch the series since it came out. I'm a little nervous, but I hope it comes. I hope it's really good. And the next book I did end up reading, Good Girl, Bad Blood, which is the second book to this trilogy. I still haven't finished the third book, and I did explain why in my vlog that I did, my reading vlog with reading this series, but I think I am going to venture back into this world and finally finish the last book. I gave this book 4 stars, and I gave this one 3.75. Oh my gosh, this next book I cannot recommend enough. I love this book so much. I literally recommended it to one of my friends, and she loved it. She fell in love with it. She's not even that much of a reader. She's like sort of getting back into the reading where, you know, where you're kind of that in between of, do I like reading for fun or do I like just reading when I'm like really like I have to be in the mood for it, you know what I mean? Like she's kind of in between there right now, and when I recommended her this book, she's one of those people that kind of only reads smut. A lot of my best friends are. So I recommended this book, and she finished it in like 2 sittings, I think. Collide by Bal Cabra, I cannot recommend enough. It is so good. I still think about it to this day. I can't even begin to explain how much I love this story. It was my first hockey romance. I still have yet to read Icebreaker because I'm scared. This book was really good. It was fast paced. It's a story about Summer and Aiden. Summer despises hockey players because her dad is one. or was one. He literally ignored her entire childhood. So she's like sworn off of hockey players, but for her college psychology assignment, I think it is, she has to venture into the world of hockey. There's this there's this hockey captain named Aiden. He gets in trouble for the team, and he has to now be a part of her experiment, and that just leads into a great story. He falls first and harder. This book was a trip, and I really loved it. It was really, really good. I cannot recommend it enough. I loved this book. The next book I read was Divine Rivals by Rebecca Ross. This book, it's a story about this girl named Iris and this guy named Roman. They're both writers, and they're competing to get a columnist position at the Oath Gazette or something like that. It's a mythological story. Honestly, in my opinion, I thought it was really good. Her writing is very, I don't want to say whimsical, but maybe like lyrical. It's very magical. I mean obviously like it's a magical world, but it's a world about these two gods. It's in the middle of a war, and Iris ends up venturing into that war to publish about it, so she can find her brother, since her brother ended up going into the war because he was like called by the goddess. Roman ends up going after her because he's in love with her, and there's these typewriters that are linked in magically, and they start talking that way, and they start falling in love with each other through those letters that they send to each other. I thought it was a very beautiful story. It wasn't, I guess, life-changing. There was definitely some quotes that I thought were very beautiful, so I would definitely recommend it. It's a very easy read. I gave this book 4 stars. The next book I read was a classic, To Kill a Mockingbird by Harper Lee. I didn't rate it because it's a classic, but it was definitely interesting. I could see why it was a school book. I'm not really going to go into it, but at least I can say I read it. Oh my gosh. This next book that I read, I cannot begin to explain. I don't want to be mean. But I just did not enjoy this book. It's Poisoned by Jennifer Donnelly. I don't know, maybe it was her writing or maybe the way it was laid out, but this was a Snow White retelling. I just recently watched Snow White for the first time because I've never seen it, you know, the Disney version, since they're gonna make a live action one. But at the time I hadn't watched Snow White, and I thought it was boring. So reading this book, I thought I was gonna get a more interesting story, especially it was supposed to be like a darker twist and fantasy and stuff like that. It was okay. There were some parts where I was just like, okay, this is getting pretty good. I just feel like the way that it was laid out and her writing just made it super confusing to follow. And then I feel like she would just be saying these things, and I just didn't care about what she was writing about, or about what the story was trying to show me. I gave this book 2 stars. I think this is like one of the only books I gave 2 stars, but hey, to each his own. The next book I listened to was Romeo and Juliet, which I have somewhere. I think it's on the top shelf. I listened to it instead of reading it because I heard from a lot of people that it was hard to follow when they were reading it. I listened to the dramatized version on Spotify. It was honestly not that bad. I feel like following the characters were a little different because obviously I knew they were, I guess you'd say, different voices. When there was a different voice, like I could tell. I just couldn't tell which those characters were. But it was really good. It's a classic. It's Shakespeare, Romeo and Juliet. The next book I read was The Long Game by Elena Armos. This was me trying to like not get into a reading slump by just reading whatever I wanted to read. So I chose an author that I knew that I loved, and Elena Armos was someone that I love because of The Spanish Love Deception. I love that book forever and ever. I will always recommend it. It's so good. It's such an easy read, and I love her handwriting. The same with this book. I can't really remember the characters' names. It's a story about this girl. She is one of the managers at her father's soccer team or whatever in Miami, and she ends up like flipping out. She gets sent off to this small project in like the country. She ends up meeting a famous football player that ended up retiring there. Enemies to lovers. I thought it was a really cute romance. It was just a really cute and easy read. At the time, I gave it 4 stars. I can understand why. Like there's certain scenes that I can remember about this book, but I don't know. Like I feel like I've read better enemies to lovers. Well, now, but I'll get to that in a second. I feel like this one was really good. It was really easy. It was an author that I loved, so 4 stars is definitely something I think she earned. The next book I read was, oh my gosh, I love this book. I literally have a whole like reading vlog about the whole series. I fell in love with The Fine Print, Lauren Asher. Lauren Asher, oh my gosh. I love her writing. I love her writing. I will forever love her writing. I need to get into the rest of her books because this book altered my brain chemistry. Okay, like this series alone altered my brain chemistry, but this book was so good. I mean, I tabbed it up beautifully, really. Like 4 pages into this book, I had my first tab. It was so good. Her writing is amazing. It's so easy to follow. This was just a really good story. It's a Disney retelling, Disney World, Disneyland. Who doesn't love a billionaire romance? It's about Rowan and Zara. Zara is someone who dreams of building parks and stuff like that, and she had an idea, but her ex-boyfriend like took it from her. She ends up getting a second chance, and Rowan ends up being the boss because he's forced to by his grandfather, who had recently died and made all 3 of the brothers do something for a certain amount of time, and he ends up falling in love. This book was really good. 5 stars for sure, hands down. I think at the time it was like a 4.75. My rating for this series is definitely 5 stars. I still think about these books to this day, and it's been a good couple months since I've read the books. I just know that when I was reading this book, it flew for me. The same with the second book, Terms and Conditions. This book even more. I was enjoying it so much I was forgetting to tab. Does that make sense? Does that ever happen to you? The first day of reading this book, I was reading this book in school, and just from one class, I was already over 100 pages, over 120 pages in this book. I don't read that fast. I can't. I'm dyslexic. I just enjoy this book so much. I gave this book, it's always the older brother. I gave this book 5 stars. I still think about the things that they do. Just like, I think about the character development. I think about the way that Lauren Asher merged her words into this story so perfectly. It was so good. So good. No. Okay, so I got ahead of myself, but before I ended up reading Terms and Conditions, I listened to Thank You for Listening by Julia Whelan. Let me just tell you, I don't know. I'm not the biggest person who loves to listen to audiobooks, maybe while I'm reading along with it, but this book I heard was really good for listening to in general, just because she authored like what is it called? I don't know. She did it on Spotify. I listened to it. It was really good. I loved it. I swallowed that book so well. I gave it 4 stars. It was really, really good. It was enjoyable. She's really good with her voices. Thank You for Listening is about this, what is it called when you're, an audiobook person? Oh, right. She's a narrator. So this book is about this book is about 2 narrators who end up crossing paths and have a one-night stand. She pretended to have a fake identity, and then he is a narrator with a fake identity. Does that make sense? I don't even remember their names. I remember the story vividly, how she has to go through it with her dad and her nan or gran, or I don't know, her grandma, and then how she's like struggling with the whole narrator aspect, and then having to go through life with just an eye patch because of her accident that she had. I don't know. I thought the story was really, really good, and I followed it so well. I still remember it, and I was listening to it the whole time. So I think it was narrated and written very beautifully. And then after Terms of Conditions, I ended up reading It Ends With Us by Colleen Hoover, which I have yet to watch the movie, so I definitely need to do that. I've heard a lot of mixed signals about the movie in general. I honestly liked It Ends With Us. I've also heard, like, with the book itself, people had a lot of mixed feelings, that they thought it wasn't that good or it wasn't their favorite from Colleen Hoover. I think It Ends With Us is the only Colleen Hoover book I've ever read. I liked it. I enjoyed it. One of my teachers, like my aid teacher, She reads as well, and she just told me to go through it as if it were just a story about someone's life, and that's what I did. I enjoyed it a lot. There were some parts where I was just like, okay, you know, with like when she was going through her diary, but it's basically about this girl who is growing up and like going through her past lover, like her first love and the love that she's trying to build now with her current boyfriend, and she's just trying to go through the struggles of having had an abusive dad to her mother and having an abusive boyfriend and trying not to repeat the cycle of what her mom had to go through. It was just a very good story. I gave it 4 stars. The next book after that, I actually don't have the book, but I think I do. I just don't know where it is. It's probably somewhere up there. I read a book that my dad had given me, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective Teens. I thought the book was really good. It's given me some habits that I'm starting to work on myself. By all means, venture into it if you want to. After that, I ended up reading on my phone, on my Libby app, As Long as You Love Me by Mariana Leal. The main reason why I read this book is because the main characters were going to UCF. Like, I'm pretty sure it was their last year at UCF. I don't know, but I like that college. I read it. I don't even remember the characters' names. Really cute romance, enemies to lovers. They're once again in the same firm, I guess, trying to get a position. Like, I don't know. I'm pretty sure he doesn't even need to work and that he was already trying to find another job, but they end up fake dating. I think the goal of that book was to ruin his sister's wedding, which I thought was an interesting concept. And I thought it was really cool. I thought it was really cute. It was very fast paced. I finished it in like 2 days, I think. I gave it 4 stars. The next book I read was The Hunger Games by Susan Collins. Like, I need to tell you because I know you know what this book is. This book was really good. I obviously watched the movies 1,000,001 times. I love the movies so much. They're a part of the reason why I love reading so much and why I love fantasy so much, because I grew up with The Hunger Games, The Maze Runner, Harry Potter, Star Wars, and stuff like that. So definitely a great read. It was very interesting to finally see the difference between a book and a movie, with a movie that is so big in the franchise. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I would definitely recommend, especially if you're trying to get into fantasy or like that dystopian style world. It was really easy, really fast paced, and great writing. After that, I finally finished, because I read all that in the middle of trying to read The Final Offer by Lauren Asher. And when I tell you, you know when you just need to hug your books? Like, if you could hug your series, it would definitely be this series. I can't even begin to explain. This book, bro, she's thick. She's thick. Holy, but it's about the youngest brother. Same world. I'm pretty sure it falls into like the same timeline again. They like overlap with each other since it's just different POVs and different lovers. This is a second chance romance. I thought it was beautifully written. I loved every part of it. The girl started getting a little bit annoying, but in the end, I thought the story was amazing. The writing was obviously phenomenal. Can't say it's my favorite. I feel like I had more of an emotional attachment to the fine print and terms and conditions than I do with The Final Offer, but it's about the youngest brother who's trying to battle with alcoholism while the lover of his, she's trying to figure out her life with her daughter who she ended up adopting from her sister, and then trying to trust again Callahan. I love that name. I don't know why. Every time I heard it, I just love Callahan. I know he's the bad guy from Big Hero 6. This book was really good. This series is really good. It's a 5-star series for me. I still think about every single character to this day, even if I don't even remember some of the stuff that happened in The Final Offer. But yeah, enough about that series. I settled with 4.5 stars. The next book I read, let me tell you, at the time I was in love with this book, and don't get me wrong, I still love it. I still think it's amazing. Heartless Hunter by Kristen C. Chef's Kiss, you know what I mean? I give it 5 stars because let me tell you the definition of hunter and hunted. This book right here. Oh my gosh, I was emotionally challenged with every aspect of this book, and I swallowed it as if it were spaghetti, as if it were water, bro. Like, it was so good. I can't even begin to explain. I think the writing was beautiful. I wouldn't necessarily say that it's spicy. I'm pretty sure it's YA. The whole goal of this book is that she's trying to get information out of him to rescue this witch, because she is a witch and he is a witch hunter, and she's trying to use him to get information about this witch and where she's going, and he's trying to use her to see if she knows the Crimson Moth, which is her, but he doesn't know that, and he's trying to use her to see if she is the Crimson Moth or if she knows who the Crimson Moth is. And this is just a very back and forth story. It was very beautifully written. I thought it was amazing. It was very fun. It was very fast paced. I think I would recommend it to anyone who loves fantasy and books like this. After that, I finally ventured into Riley Sager, The House Across the Lake. Oh my gosh, this book. I gave it 5 stars. When I tell you, I still think about the way this author wrote those plot twists, because those plot twists were twisting. They were twisting and twisting. They wouldn't stop. I cannot begin to tell you how mind blown I was about the different stuff that was going on in this book. He is a phenomenal writer. Very easy, very fast paced. You will try and guess what the plot twist will be and you will get it wrong. You will get it wrong. I wish I could read this book again because it was so good. It was an amazing mystery, amazing thriller, and I would recommend this to anyone who loves thriller and loves horror and stuff like that. 5 stars. Oh my gosh, like, good book after good book. Powerless by Lauren Roberts. Oh my gosh, when I tell you this book, I cannot begin to explain how good this book is, because it's about this world where there's elites and ordinaries, and the elites end up killing the ordinaries because they think that they have a disease that will make them not elite anymore. Peyton, the main character, she is an ordinary, but no one knows. She's been hiding in the streets as a psychic her whole life. Kai, I was about to spoil the book so hard. Kai is an elite and he is the enforcer, meaning he does, I guess, the king's dirty work. He kills the ordinaries. So when Peyton ended up going into Hunger Games-esque trials that they have, Kai was not expecting to meet someone so out of the ordinary, as you would say. Please read this book. If you haven't yet to read this book, I don't care. I don't care if you only read smut. When I tell you the banter in this book, oh my gosh. I don't even have to explain to you. If you are a part of the book talk, if you are a part of like Bookstagram or whatever, like if you know books, you know Powerless by Lauren Roberts is a must read. It is so good. It's a read that will never catch you sleeping on this phenomenal writer. I aspire to write like her. I cannot begin to explain how this book got me back into writing. I haven't written or tried to write an outline of a book in so long until I read this book and I was like, okay, it's so good. 5 stars. I think closer to the 6-star category. 100% recommend. I loved it so much. I could talk about it for hours. The next book I read was finally getting into Stephen King, Holly. I was gonna read the book where she first entered, but I ended up finding it on sale at Barnes & Noble, so I got it. Stephen King's writing, we all know that Stephen King is a phenomenal writer. He writes these amazing, incredible stories, and something about him just makes me like so intrigued about how he writes and how his brain thinks as an author. Just wow. It was a beautiful story to read about Holly, a middle-aged woman who's struggling with COVID because she recently lost someone. She ends up finding this case about a missing person, and then it leads up to many different cases about many different people who are missing. And let's just say, read the trigger warnings because you'll be shocked about certain things that are in this book. It wasn't even scary. It was more like a thriller than anything, like a mystery thriller. So much fun. I even laughed at some parts. Stephen King is a phenomenal writer and I can't wait to read more of his stuff. The next book I ended up listening to was First Lie Wins by Ashley Elston. I gave this book 4 stars. I thought it was really good. It's also a mystery. It's about this girl who lives her life. Like every couple months she changes her identity because when she was younger she learned about stealing and stuff like that. So she joined a corporation that organization that ended up finding her when she was young. The whole book is about her trying to regain her boss's trust. With her mission, it's about this guy that she ends up really liking. She's trying to find this information, and when she finds certain information and she doesn't end up telling her boss, things go down, and it was basically her being tested in every way. The next book I read was Powerful by Lauren Roberts. It's the novella to Powerless. It's the best friend's POV, and Darna. No, and that's from Fourth Wing. Hold on. Adina. You can understand how I got that mixed up. It's about Adina and her little love story, and basically her POV about everything that she went through with Peyton being gone. She also meets this person. She meets Mac. He's a very beautiful character. I don't know if he's going to go back into the story or not, but I hope so, because I really liked his character. I gave this, it's a novella. I gave it 5 stars. It was really good. I loved it a lot. It was definitely a very cute love story. The next book I read, which was the only book, well, one of the only books I read in the summer, was Dance of Thieves by Mary E. Pearson. This book was really good. I can definitely understand the hype from Book Talk about this duology. I have yet to read the second book, but I definitely want to. It's about Kazi. She's a Rattan, basically the queen's right-hand man. They are special soldiers that are trained when they're very young. Kazi and her 2 other friends are sent over. Well, technically there's 5 of them in total, but 3 of them, including Kazi, have to go to this place, I forgot the name, where Jace is the new ruler. And she doesn't know that, but they end up meeting. Something happens, they end up getting chained together, and they're in the middle of the woods. So now they have to find their way back. I definitely could say that this world is very easy to follow. It was a really good book. I was definitely engaged. It took me so long to finish this book, but it was still so good. After that, I'm thoroughly still in my fantasy mood, so I of course read Lauren Roberts' Reckless, because it came out, and why wouldn't I do that? It was literally the second to last book at Target, and I was like, I'm buying this right now. Like, no hesitation, I'm buying this right now. I bought it yet again. Amazing, beautiful. Wow. Talk about the contemplation of every little thing about their existence for each other or with each other. Beautifully written. She can write about them staring at each other for 5 minutes or for 400 pages, and I will eat it up perfectly. Yet another 5 stars. Enemies to lovers, holy, they're not even, I can't even, the plot twist at the end of this book, I promise you, I was like, of course he did. Like, I just knew he was gonna do it. How did I, you know those things where it's just like, you have to wait a million years, but once you finally get it, it's just, that was this book. And I didn't even have to wait that long. People had to wait longer, and I was dying. This book, so good. Her series, amazing. Her writing, oh my gosh, so good. I love her writing so much. The next book is just a book that I know is going to be in my heart for a long time. Emily Henry. And we all know who Emily Henry is. And we all know Beach Read, Gus, and January are amazing. They are phenomenal. I love this story so much. There was not a point in time where I was bored. This story was so good. It's about these 2 authors who are both struggling to write. They end up giving themselves a challenge. They knew each other in college. Nothing ever happened. She's struggling with the fact that she doesn't believe in love, or if she should, even though she's a romance author, and then he's struggling with writing in general and who he wants to be as a writer. He's also struggling with a divorce. Her writing is so easy. It's so good. The way she weaves, like wolves? You know when like you weave? No, yeah, okay. The way she weaved in every bit of aspect of grief, of worry, of love, of triumph. Oh my gosh. The way she weaves in every little piece of the way someone is as a person. I never thought that someone can make a person feel so real. This book was so good. I loved it so much. I cannot begin to explain how much I'm going to not shut up about this. That was the ending of my summer. I'm pretty sure I finished it like closer to the end of the first week of August. And I recently just finished Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen. It is a classic, so I did not rate it. The story is really good. A very hard book to read. A little over halfway through, I ended up needing to listen to an audiobook while reading this book, but it's an amazing story. I cannot wait to watch the movie. I think Jane Austen is an amazing writer. Talk about the definition of enemies to lovers. I think she's the one that built it up. She's the one that made it. She's the one that created it. Jane Austen is a beautiful author, and I can understand why she has so much hype. I literally watched Emma with my stepmom, and we both bought the book. It's a beautiful copy. And yeah, those are all the books I've read so far in 2024. Hopefully I have more books that I will read, even though obviously I will, because I'm not going to stop reading. But yeah, let me know if you guys want like a separate video of me explaining the books that are on my TBR for the year of 2024, I guess for the rest of the year. Definitely wishful thinking. Let's start off there. But I know I do have a lot of book series and books that I do want to read in 2024. I guess let me know